So, okay, we're here.
I
Hi. Before I jump into anything, which that right there's that energy. Yeah, I just thought maybe we could all have a quick check-in and just sort of check in what we're coming in with today and yeah, what we're coming in with today. I think that's a good prompt and open enough.
sure enough.
Yeah.
I'm excited to report that here in New York City, there is a big giant NFT conference, NFT.NYC. 3 days of art and music and education and community and etc. around the NFT phenomenon and Web3 blockchain stuff. I don't have like a lot of conference experience, but it's not my first conference. Um, I'm really thankful that someone in my community at Project Catalyst, Snap Brillia, and Nin Tran gave me the ticket. So I won like a lottery to get the conference ticket. So that's pretty exciting. And that's what I'm getting ready for. Yeah, that's what I'm getting ready for.
Cool. Wait, so you told me that yesterday. I actually just want to make a note. What was the name of the organization or the Sting Trappa?
Snap Brillia, and
Snap Brillia.
Yeah, I can pull up a link here. They are sort of a mentoring, mentee training, job bounty, new work kind of organization. Similar to like the cooperative here, in that they kind of get individual freelancers or students and try to get that power of network so that they can, one, find the right training, and then two, find the right jobs. Yeah. They're an interesting organization.
Yeah. You mentioned them to me yesterday. I just thought it'd be good to have them in our notes.
Get them in the notes.
Yeah, thank you. Zoe?
I don't have any exciting, cool news like that. I'm still here in my house. I spend a lot of time in my house. Let's see, was there anything exciting recently? I guess, well, like I'm part of another group. Oh, there's Snap Brillia. Yeah, I want to check that out. I had a book club recently online.
Cool.
My scary Marxist friends, which was really fun. And we're reading a book called Platform Capitalism. And it's kind of complicated, so I need to review my notes. We talked about NFTs a little bit in terms of like music, and I don't think I understand NFTs very well, and maybe you could like help me understand them better, because the context we were talking about was like, if you sell your music as an NFT, maybe it won't be bootlegged, and but then someone was like, but they could always just like record or, so maybe NFTs aren't really gonna prevent bootlegging, and maybe we just have to accept bootlegging. Shit, I don't know. That's what we were talking about.
Oh, that's kind of cool that that broke out in the book club, a combo about, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's cool, maybe it actually isn't a solution. I have no idea, but I still don't really understand NFTs very well.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand them more better.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I don't understand them all that well. And every once in a while, a buddy of mine explained it like this. And it's sort of like this with all new ideas. And or let's see if this sounds familiar. It's like you talk about it or you get it and you're like, oh, okay. And you're reading and it's kind of tough. And then like you kind of relax, and then like there's the clouds break and you're like, oh, could this happen? Oh my God, that would just be incredible. And then it's just like, it kind of kind of clouds come back in and you're like, could NFTs change music for the, like
Yeah.
in MP3s, like I remember when MP3s were a thing and I was like, I don't know. I don't understand anything about it. I'm not necessarily a musical guy, but this would have been in like 99, 98 or something. And a friend of mine, and I, knew that it was a file format and it stood for this and blah, blah, blah. And a friend of mine, a non-technical person was like, oh, you know about MP3s? I was like, yeah. And she's like, can we listen to one? And I'm like, all right. And then, we get a file and we got it and we listened to it and we're like, oh, boy, that was thrilling. It's just, it didn't, you know what I'm saying? It was just music. It was just music coming from the speakers. But
Love it. I love it. Yeah, the thing with the clouds, like coming back and forth, it's totally how I feel about so many things I'm trying to learn about these days. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
It's really-
Anything else, Zoe?
I'm trying to understand different business, like very basic examples of different business models.
Oh, cool. Whoa, yeah. Well, that's
At the top, we have the capitalist traditional business model that pays a lot to CEOs.
mm-hmm.
We have the co-op, and it pays a lot to wages. And then we have the DAO, and I feel like the DAO is similar to a co-op, but maybe it's not totally a co-op. I'm not sure yet. Can't really tell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Struggling.
yeah, well, it's good to like get them, I love graphs. I love charts and visualization. Like that definitely will help.
Please like screen share or something, because
Yeah, Zoe, that's really cool. And I know that we have been having this ongoing conversation for a little while, which is a great conversation. And me too, I need to continue to get those models, really like, it's the same thing. I mean, I use that same analogy, Newman, except for like, instead of a cloud, mine is a wall. I go across and then I hit the wall and then I go down and then, it's the same thing. And so, I sure have learned a lot, and continue to, but that's neat. Can you send that to me or us that
ready to send?
Because I think, Zoe, really, what we're talking about a lot is what is like, and this is such a beautiful question, really want some time to sit with it, is like, what is the difference between, a traditional worker-owned co-op and a DAO?
Yeah.
Totally. And what do both of those business models look like? And then I mean, it's a really great question, which I think, there are answers to. Oh, yeah.
Great. And maybe you guys could help me like build off of this or draw your own chart someday.
Yeah. Can I share this with okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to very quickly pull it from my downloads. Let me see. Let me see.
But there are a lot of question marks in it, maybe.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. All right, now it lives in our meeting notes.
Nice.
Yeah. There's also something. Well, I'll check in as well. Zoe, do you feel complete with your check-in?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's something where with NFTs, I mean, I understand them at a certain level, and then there's ways which I don't, also especially like I think the thing with NFTs, even if you sort of get the base of what they are, like the use cases are still, it's like really up in the air, I think, in a lot of ways, that nobody. I don't get the impression that people are like, well, this is how NFTs are going to be used, and this is the way, it's.
Yeah, yeah. I think a use case is kind of a practical thing. And there's that whole, and then there's the sort of potential, right? There's the technology behind it. There's, which is basically blockchain technology and the whole idea of a non-fungible, you know, entity on a blockchain and a distributed ledger, which is interesting in tokenomics and sort of the history of our like monetary system of like something that was fungible, like a dollar. A dollar is a dollar. A non-fungible is like some unique thing. And then they have like, I guess there is like the semi-fungible, like where there's a run of 100 of these special tokens and they're all the same. And now these relate to like different protocols in the different blockchains. For instance, I think it's like an ERC20 is a fungible token, and an ERC 721, I think, is the non-fungible, is the NFT one. So there, all that is to say is that there's these technical things, there's like practical things, and in those practical things, it's interesting that Zoe mentions music, because that to me, it could become a use case for like the creator, because it's like, okay, you make a creative work and that you somehow tie it, whether it's digital or not, you somehow tie it to an NFT, and then that NFT sort of holds your intellectual property rights and and it can be, yes, it can be copied. And I when people talk about that, and not you, Zoe, but when people say, oh, well, it can just be copied, like they're like, oh, you're just buying a JPEG, or that JPEG is stored somewhere where it can be, copied or changed or whatever. It's sort of, it's not getting the principle of it. The principle of it is it's like a lawyer it's like a code lawyer, like a little, that holds and sort of maintains
certification.
Yeah, reputation goes into it. So I wonder, in that practicality thing, like what will be the big, breakthrough kind of like, it's a horrible thing, but the killer app, like the thing that like brings it to a wide mainstream audience, to where they don't even know that they're using NFTs. They're just like, oh, I have this thing, and and the background. Or will it be like, oh, we use NFTs and that's the thing? In the education model, in the sort of like skill verification, we sort of did this back in the 2010 times with badges, which are like certifications of training or a POAP, a proof of attendance protocol, and that's like, we would all get we would sign into this meeting, and we would all get a token that says we attended this meeting and etc. And that then you can kind of visualize the network and see like attendance. And this is like, it's just school 101 from 1905 on the plains of Kansas. They would take attendance, on a little ledger, and they would say, oh yeah, the Smith brothers were here, and etc. I kind of I see some stuff in education around that. I see it in the music. I see it in the art world, and all of that stuff. So I'm curious as to what breaks through in the sort of practical. And I do want to have a couple of guiding questions as a way of attacking or interfacing with the conference. That's sort of what I'm trying to
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a question that you could bring in if it's of interest. It's certainly of interest to me.
Yeah.
But because, all right, I mean, I have, I've listened to some podcasts, talking about all the different kind of use cases in NFTs, and, the idea is that it's a, I think in some ways, right, number one, that it's like a, it's a thing like you own, and you have the certification that says, this is so there's only, it's like only one of them, but I have like the digital proof. But like in use cases, it's like if there's a certain amount, it can also be used as like, thought of as like a ticket, right?
Yeah.
It's like a ticket. Okay, well, a ticket is a non-fungible token. If a ticket to a concert,
Right.
that's the same thing. And so, if you have if a ticket and there's only so many, so you could have a ticket to like certain, communities or certain things, and right. And something with the NFT is that, like there's this idea, the more popular than that community or whatever that ticket is for, the more value it has, right? So then people want to, and it gets right, can get into the whole speculation thing, which we know, but it's like, then, like, oh, I really want to get into that, community. And so then somebody sells you their NFT, and then they make a little money and right, but then it gets into all that speculation and but it's an interesting, what the interesting question is, right, is, and for holistic systems is, with this kind of like the membership model, this gated kind of resource sharing community, right? I had always sort of pictured it, in my mind as just like the, you pay with it the same way, as you pay with like, for services, with, either, like with the co-op token, it's like it's $15 a month, 15 co-op tokens a month, and or $15 a month, whatever you think about. But this person Frisco that I was talking with, he popped in the idea really quick that he's like, oh, well, you could also actually just make NFTs, for that particular access community, and so you make, rather than like funds, it's like you own this NFT and then you sort of like own access to that.
Okay.
I don't really know if like how that would work, or if that's better than just kind of more that like I'm gonna pay every month. Honestly, now that I'm talking it out, it sounds like it starts to really get into, because these podcasts, people are talking about NFTs, but in this mostly traditional way, of like, I want to like make money off of it. I want to, have this painting of a, or this artwork of an ape, and I want it to get really high and then sell it. So I don't know. But anyways, Newman, that's because that's a use case. Like
Right.
I don't know if that's actually a good use case for that particular kind of gated access community.
It would be interesting. I think what resonated with me was like the idea of holding and collecting, earning, trading, sharing tokens, fungible tokens, just utility tokens. Let's just go back to like the proof of attendance. So instead of us we show up for a meeting and we get 10 utility tokens, and so now we've got 10 utility tokens in the thing, and we can see by utility like the utility tokens, like where we are, and there may be even a way to show where those tokens came from if you like explore the chain. But if we got a POAP proof of attendance protocol token, that could be a little more like have more utility, or maybe do some different affordances, like different features to it, that it would be a little different, like like the whole idea of trading like your tokens. There's something that has to happen with the trading. Okay, but I get what you're saying about speculative wealth, because once it gets into the secondary market, like if you allow the token, and that might be a thing, because if you have just a generic utility token, then it's more general and sort of opens itself up to, and that might be what you want, is secondary markets where speculative wealth and things can sort of get in, and then maybe they go up in price or whatever. And I realize that I'm like these are all the things that I want to find out about when they talk about tokenomics. It's like, oh, we're going to do a tokenomics class, and I'm like, yes, I want to do that. And you're like, ooh, like that first 30 minutes of the class, or the first half of a page of the web page, and you're like, yes, clouds opening up, and then like at some point they're like switch and it's just and it's just a wall of, and I'm right back to where I was, so many times before.
Totally.
But we keep doing it. And it is nice to talk it out again, the cooperative model, because I probably wouldn't be talking about this if I was sitting by myself. And giving it, like we become audience for each other as we take turns standing up on the box to speak. I think I want to. Okay, here you go. Here's the thing, Rob, Zoe.
Okay.
So much of what we do, it's like you go heads in the clouds, to use this analogy, and you're like, oh, there's this idea or this thing. And maybe music will be done with NFTs, or I could do a token for attendance at a meeting, like the two examples that we're using. But I want to find that like first baby step into this space so that I can use it and have like a real sense of it. And then I feel more like it gets into my whole body, as opposed to just like understanding it in one way. Like I want to understand it in a bunch of different ways. And I think that's a fundamental like learning thing. It's just like, baby steps, or like this incremental, like, okay, okay, like what is what is a full step? Like what is a step? And then it's just like, okay, do half a step, do a quarter step, just do the teeniest step that you can imagine. What is that? And then really kind of sense into it and see how it feels. And then, like, it's like, let's go slow. Let's go really, really slow. Because I do think that change does happen and transformation does happen. Like, I think we've talked about this, the transformation happens. It's just that I think that it can be less stressful and less sort of cataclysmic, like it doesn't have to crash down the whole house if we just go slow, there you go. That's a thought. That's a thought.
Yeah.
So that might be something I'm looking for, is like, what are the first steps? Like, what are the small things that could happen in the NFT space, the DAO space, the blockchain space, Yeah.
Well, that brings in that sort of brings me to my check-in, if you will, into this sort of energy when you talk about going slow in in this DAO, this new space, and co-creating within that. Because I think, sort of my check-in, I'm good. Just Rob as a person. And but my check-in, I think what I'm bringing, and like the energy that I've been feeling, especially, the last few days, and then, in this conversation it's actually kind of timely. I think it's interesting that this constellation of three people are here, because with the energy that I'm sort of feeling is this, like, all right, we got to bring in some money, we got to bring in money. Let's get people, let's, get some clients. And, and that is not an energy I always have, and I never want that to be like the driving energy. And that doesn't work for me anyways, when I'm like, I got to get clients and make money, in this sort of, I don't know, traditional way, it doesn't work. But there is an energy that feels present for me now that is like, just has to do with like that being part of, what we're doing and part of the business creation. That's part of the plan, support ourselves in the here and now while we're, kind of being that model. And so, so I'm kind of coming in with a lot of that, like, all right, what are we doing? Let's make some plans. Who's doing what? Plans, timelines, this kind of thing. Which is a little different than I think the energy of the DAO creation, which is like, an example, is that like Zoe and I have been attempting to put a proposal up, a very small baby step proposal up for her on the DAO platform for a while, and it still hasn't actually materialized, you know, because it is, you know, we're growing, and the Dow has to, you know, Nadim, who, shout out to Nadim, who is in India now, so it's like 3 a.m. there, and so he's not on the call, but you know, we've been talking with him about kind of the Dow creation, you know, and it's a, you know, he's talking about it's like a group, you know, kind of co-creation process, and even the business plan, the business model, and all of that, you know, that takes time, and so I think that there's right now it feels to me like we're in an interesting place, you know, where it's not that Dow co-creation isn't happening, but it's sort of you know, those pieces, it feels like we're in it, but there's this growth that is happening in this sort of like, hey, how are we bringing in funds level? So, you know,
Right.
you all can tell me if you agree, you know, like how you feel about that. And, you know, Newman, you're coming in pretty fresh, but that's the energy that I'm feeling. And again, with like you know, what we have, I think, have talked about with, you know, with both of you is, it feels like that energy is also, you know, is present, you know, and it's, and also all three of us are people who are like, yeah, I have skill sets, like I can, you know, I'm a person who's, you know, can directly work with clients in different ways. And so, yeah, that's a lot of the energy I'm bringing, and, you know, and I want to sort of get into details, and, you know, that this meeting might not be, you know, the place for it. I think it's up to us. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Do you have something to pop in?
Well, just you know, it is I love the, just to re you know, state that there's that energy of bring in money, kind of like, and it is, and I do love sort of sensing it, because I feel that, I feel like it's springtime. It's sort of wood element in the five, and the Chinese 5 elements. It's like the thing that gets burnt up, you know, by the heart fire, you know, the passion burns up the wood. And the and then it's sort of like, oh, that has its own, you know, like raft of stuff that goes along with it. And then sort of the you know, and the counterpoint to it is this kind of creative, softer, if that other is kind of harder and hotter, that's like the creation is a little cooler and softer. You know, there's a nice balance between the two. And then, you know, like good sort of dynamic biomimicry systems, it's like being able to transition slow, you know, in a rhythmic and happy way between those two. Yeah, I think that's I think that was well put. I think that's well said, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and then that popped at one, you know, one more piece is that, like, the right, you know, what we, you know, talking about in this practical, in a very practical sense, I think is just a practical way of describing what you just described, is that if we're able to bring in some sort of a, you know, base level income for ourselves, then that actually allows space and breath for that, you know, larger creative process to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The income and can make space for the creativity, which, you know, and the yin yang sort of creates a space for the income, you know, like
Yeah.
it is a cycle or a pump, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Zoe, any thoughts?
Nice.
Yeah.
My mom's a Chinese or Korean astrologer, so I appreciated all of those references.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like looking at this chart while you guys are talking and trying to like visualize what you're saying, but in the chart.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you could see at the top of each model is the revenue that comes in, which we're trying to achieve, money coming in. Yeah, maybe because you know how or Rob knows that I'm comfortable with the co-op model, but have like hesitancies with the DAO model because I still don't, you know.
Sure. Like
It. And I feel like if we, you know, bring in more clients, like the green arrow in the middle of the page, the revenue arrow. If we
Mhm.
bring in clients and just work as a DAO or as a co-op model to start off, and then, we could build the DAO tokenomic system on top of the co-op later, but we always could just turn to the co-op model as a first step to bringing in money and paying ourselves. If that makes any sense.
I'm just checking out the
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Yeah, I'm just reading the.
yeah, let's give us a little intro into this.
Okay, great. So the capitalist model at the top, of course, it's pretty simplified. But I'm gonna show you this chart really quick that I took a screenshot of. Such a great chart. Where is it? Come on.
I've always wanted to be in, because growing up in sort of a capitalist system, and I'm like, okay, I'll go and work for a boss and they'll pay me and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to work in a co-op. I've always sort of like, oh, that's something. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's something that I want to experience in that sort of sense of like having a lived experience of it. Because a lot of people are like, oh, blah, 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 it's this and then, oh, how could it work? I'm like, you've never done it. So like, I don't feel comfortable like having an opinion about stuff if I've not done it.
Yeah.
I can read stuff in a book, but
And
yeah.
I think there are some pretty large firms that do run that way. I know in Korea, there's a pretty large firm that's a successful co-op. So I know it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Anyway, can you see this little graph? You've probably seen it so many times. It's the red line is wages, and you see how the wages have started off in the 70s. And then the blue line is productivity, profits too. So there's a huge gap, and a co-op would essentially have the red meet the blue to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of that money going to like stockholders or, owners of the company who, go for passive income, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the model chart, could you pull that up again?
Yeah.
I can pull it up. Here I
I'm
am.
trying to understand the key differences between them. So money would not be going to passive incomists. It would be going to the worker wages and paying them, quite a bit more than they would be making at a traditional capitalist model company. And any questions so far, or
So yeah. So in the capitalist model at the top, so you got revenue, sales, membership, stuff comes in and then gets distributed between profit for owners, stockholders, capitalist passive income. Okay. And then also to worker wages and expenses.
right.
And then in the co-op model, revenue comes in, and now we've got worker wages, expenses, profit for owners and stockholders goes away, capitalist passive incomes goes away, and then democratically decide to donate, to reinvest into the co-op for decided upon growth projects.
Nice.
So yeah, so we kind of you trade off sort of passive income into like more or different sort of growth projects or reinvestment. Yeah.
And paying workers more too.
Yeah, right. Different distribution of revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So basically, this is like the differences in distribution, revenue distribution in the different models. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And then
the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, the down one, you still got worker wages, expenses, and now we've got members must donate a portion of their pay. Okay, donate a portion of their pay to boost the treasury. So the treasury, it becomes a thing. So coins are fiat backed. Oh, okay, with exchangeable value. Okay, and then what are the these are the coins coming in.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for
Hmm.
checking this out. If you see any like errors or anything, let me know
Well, I
because
have
maybe,
a,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. No, this is great. This is great. I mean, I have a question. This is where I don't, this is where I, like, this is the, this is the wall or cloud where I'm at, now, is like, is really needing to understand the difference between a co-op model and a DAO model. Because I look at those two and honestly, I'm essentially seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
because if you say democratically decide, you know, democratically, decide to donate back into the co-op, to just reinvest into the business. And I see that. And then I look at members, donate a portion of their pay back to the treasury. I mean, to me, that in practice seems like the same thing. It's
I
just
think it
a
is.
DAO is using, has this tokenomic, method, of it had, I think, at least this is how I'm seeing it. It's like kind of the same thing, except the DAO is adding in this, uh, different kind of value exchange rather than just, standard, nation state backed fiat.
Right. So I guess the DAO model is fantastic if that secondary economy that you're creating, the tokenomic economy, tokenomic,
The tokenomic. Good one.
tokenomic,
Yeah.
if it's really being used creatively and flourishing, then I think it's totally worth it. But I do think that having the stress and the pressure to constantly be feeding the treasury could potentially stress us out a lot as a nascent, business. So that's why I feel like starting off as a co-op model and, reinvesting when we feel we're able to and ready to could be a really like low stress way to go into it. And then once we're like, shit, we've reinvested a lot into the, general treasury, I think we're ready to start a tokenomic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still don't quite understand the difference between investing into the co-op and investing into the treasury. Because to
It's
me, a treasury is just like, it's like the money you have available, to use on, anything that's, not worker wages or expenses.
right. I think the way I was seeing it, comparing it to another co-op model my friends and I were talking about potentially
Yeah,
start. I'll just tell you that model.
yeah,
We all
yeah.
we all find students to teach English to. We all, share those students, and we all help promote the English teaching co-op, and we all work online. But we make like basically everything the student pays us. And there's no like the last, English school I worked at, my boss took a huge cut and I made like $10 an hour. And she's in Thailand all the time, and she's not teaching much. So instead of, that's like a very simple co-op model. We're all teaching English and we're all making maybe 100% of what the student's paying us, or, minus the overhead and expenses. And if, it's a dotted line to the reinvesting into the co-op, if there's a project we really think is important, then we will reinvest and donate some. But usually we're just making a lot of wages. Whereas the DAO model, it needs to have constant like treasury backing it up in order to function. So wages will have to be lower in a DAO model versus a co-op model, I think.
Interesting. Thank you, Zoe.
This is
Yeah.
all big question mark over everything.
Well, no, these are great. And like, yeah, I think that you're laying it out, really well. And that's, and that's hitting another, area for me of not real understanding, which is like the DAO treasury and what that has to what really is that, and what's the function of it, and I mean, to really know, which yeah.
I feel like, do we have to put fiat to back the treasury up? Sounds smart to back it up with something.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, any.
yeah. I
Need
mean, that's a great question. That's a great question. I immediately was just like, oh, does it need that? But it's like the bigger the treasury, the more, not in the sense of like fiat value, but the more importance value or the more weight value of the governance token is. Because, you know, if you do, depending on the model of your governance token, you know, whether it's one token, one vote, or quadratic, or, you know, all the different, you know, ranked choice voting, you know, all the different varieties of voting, then those tokens mean more because, you know, if there's $100 in the treasury, it's different than if there's 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million US dollars or fiat currency in the treasury. You know, no one really cares if it's $100 in the treasury. A lot of people care if there's millions of dollars in the treasury. You know,
so you need to put money into it.
well, I don't know, it's where the value comes from, because maybe there's monetary value in the money, but maybe there's value in like the direction, like whether or not in this hypothetical teacher co-op DAO capitalist thing. So we've already got the capitalist model. Your boss, who started the company way back when, you know, and made the website and got the original clients, and then she hired people, and then, you know, and now she's sort of like aged out, and, you know, which is the capitalist dream, that they still, well, I mean, you know, we know the problems with capitalism because there's always cheaper people to do the work, and the quality suffers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But then the co-op model, where the co-op and the DAO model share this idea of owner, the teachers are owners, they become kind of part owners. And I guess that then it's like, then the governance layer, let's not call it the DAO layer, and thank you for letting me just talk this out. The DAO or the governance layer in the co-op model, like they have structure as to like who decides to, like, you know, when, you know, how things work, the SOPs and the methods of way things go. And then also, like, what are the appropriate expenses, and what's the necessary overhead? It's just like, oh, well, I decided to get a car so that I could drive to the store and back, and that's an appropriate expense for me to write off. And so now I have to write off $500 a month for a car payment and insurance. And you're like, but is that really something that our co-op should take care of, et cetera? You know, these are the things. With a DAO, like the difference between, but then it's sort of like, what do you do? And so that's my sort of talking it out part. But then there is like the profit, the quote unquote profit, or the leftover on top of the revenue that's come in, and then what's paid out. I mean, okay, wait a minute, let's keep going. The revenue comes in and then it's paid out. Like, why, and this is just a question, why keep a treasury? Why not just smart contract style, just equalize and just say, okay, this is how much we took in. And so, like a co-op, like I'm in REI, and that's my one big co-op that I work with all the time. And they have a great return policy on shoes. You can wear shoes, and if, you know, after, you know, anyway. But at the end of the year, and it used to be sort of like you would get this dividend, and it was just like,
Yeah.
Hey, we made this profit, and it's sort of shared among in this teacher co-op, it's shared among the teachers and the students. You're like, oh, students, we did this bigger thing, and, you know, you paid, you know, $25 an hour for your classes, and now you get a thank you, or get a reward. Maybe it's money, maybe it's not, etc.
I didn't know about that.
What's that?
I've never heard about this, like REI gives back
Yeah.
Well, REI is a member-owned co-op. REI is not that's like
Oh,
but like most of the grocery stores, the grocery store co-ops, those are member-owned co-ops, not worker-owned co-ops.
oh.
It's a good
Member owned versus employee
yeah.
worker owned.
Worker owned. Most co-ops fall into like one category. There's a couple other, right? Yeah, there's member owned, there's worker owned, there's, and when I was sort of like thinking of all this, from the start, holistic systems, I'm like, no, this thing is like both. I'm like, it's even before I knew anything about a DAO or a token, other than what you use for like the laundry machine. I was, it was like, no, this is both. This is worker owned and
That's pretty
member owned.
badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so what if REI becomes a DAO? Okay, so let's go with this, because now we kind of know one. And this is the reason why a DAO might be, one of those things that's important and like has a feature or an affordance to technology. New technologies comes with new affordances that we don't have. We don't just have money or discounts. The other thing about a member, like the rewards for becoming a member can be a little more expansive if you have this token. Now we do it already with like, award points, or
Right.
percent discounts, or in the case of REI, like you get, you can't cash it out. You can't cash out your dividend. Although, can you? You basically get store credit. You don't get money, you get store credit. And I'm almost certain that has like tax implications. Like they don't give out money, they give out credit at the store. So when it's not just credit at the store, or when you give out a token that has the ability, like it's a full-fledged monetary currency with apps and things, and you can buy services and you can trade it and do whatever, then it becomes expansive. I don't know what that expands to. That's like those clouds, like, I'm like, oh crap, you could do all this connects in some way. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that I know.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
So tell me more. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that's yeah. No, I mean, I think you're pegging it how it works, like in a way that makes sense. And, people are always talking, like tokens, they're saying it's like it's kind of like frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
And so you can use them. It's a utility, right? You can use them within this, United Airlines ecosystem. But then what if there was a secondary market? I mean, this is, what we have now, right? What if there was a secondary market where people could buy frequent flyer miles from you, And so it's like, well, I have 100 frequent flyer miles. I'm going to sell them to you for 50,000, or for, well, not, I mean, I'm going to sell them to you for whatever, $500, but it actually equates to $1,000 worth of plane tickets or something. So I don't know. There may actually be one of those. I don't know if there's a secondary frequent flyer mile.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
But they might. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
But they might. Those flyer. They might be non-fungible though, right? I don't know. If they're non-fungible, then you can't sell them.
You could transfer them to another account, but it costs money.
Oh, okay. So so they are fungible.
Yes, they can be. You can, I think you can.
Okay.
I think you do. If there's another member, like I can send them to my mom or my girlfriend.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, she can buy stuff.
I might
But it's
do that.
interesting what you said about, man, there's a guy that has studied. He's at Berkeley. He's through Project Catalyst. Gonzalo, maybe. But he's at Cal Berkeley, and he studies frequent flyer miles. And know if he got funded. I haven't seen him lately, but he would be one. Like there's big science behind all of this, like there's really, really big science because it's, and then the big, like, the big like tagline is that airlines make more money on their monetary system, on their frequent flyer miles, than they do flying people around.
Wow.
Let that sink in. That airlines make more money on their monetary stuff than they do because the margins are so low, pushing 10 around, like people in planes, it's just like, it's a break even thing.
Yeah.
Policy, the frequent flyer miles, they can make money because it's that speculative scaling economic wealth, which you have to work in these days if you want to, because everything is a commodity. Whatever you do, there's nothing you can do that's not like, the speculative wealth, and that's not in a negative term, but it's just the money on the meta money is where the money at. It's the money's not in the banks anymore. The money's not in the banks. Remember the guy that used to rob the banks? Like, why'd you rob the banks? He's like, that's where the money is. The money's not there. The money is not.
No, not in the banks.
Yeah. The debt is there, right? That's the sort of
the debt is there. The debt is what builds the big bank buildings, but the money's not there.
Yeah.
The money's just fucking in the ether.
Yeah, and that sort of brings me around full circle to these models that can get us out of that speculative wealth and really into the like practical like stuff. But unfortunately, it's like, how do you get a vertically integrated life into the co-op model? And a lot of people are doing that with like, intentional communities and stuff like that. So it's like, yes, you can pay your rent, you can pay your food, you can, do a living with non-speculative wealth, if I'm saying that correctly.
Right.
Like yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's good. The intent, right. So I know, can I pop in? Yeah.
Yeah, we're
right,
tag,
because the intentional community.
I'm on the mat.
Yeah. I know. It's like, I don't know. So, right, the intentional community, I think, is a great example. I think that, I mean, to me, that's like where I keep saying that's where we're going. In my mind, like this is a transitional vehicle to get so that way we're in this intentional community, land-based. But that's how like the wider economic. That is the conventional economic system. Right. Rather than capitalism. And right, so I've been, like I was involved with an intentional community that's, awesome down the road. They have right, and so that's where they're not, the people put in money for, to like their land and for the rent of the room, but a lot of it is on value exchange. It's just like, okay, Zoe went and like did a bunch of work, like growing the food. And so when the food gets harvested, Zoe gets a bunch of food, and right. And, Rob didn't do any farming, because it hurts his back, but he was in the kitchen, he cooked a bunch. So when food comes in, he still gets a bunch of food, and then somebody else does the, so, and it's like, and, whatever this, grandma or something didn't, didn't do any farming or cooking, but she's, an elder and helps people and talks to people and so, all right. So it's just, it's opening up that value exchange. Awesome. So I think, so with that being said, the bigger vision, this is something that, that Jeff and I were talking about yesterday, and he's holding, I think, like Seeds is holding it and, like it's being held, but I think it's coming, a little bit more into like possibility or clarity. Right. And I want to step back. So for me, there's the worker-owned co-op, in the DAO, in essence, they, and I think, in some ways now, they're functioning from this business model standpoint pretty dang similarly. Okay. In one way we're talking about a treasury, another way we're talking about, reinvesting. I mean, it's still all staying within, the organizational ecosystem. It's just how we're, utilizing it.
Yeah.
I know there's differences, and I want to, but to me, the reason I am so attracted to the DAO, that model and the tokenomics, is because of the promise that it holds, the extra potential that it really holds in the bigger picture. Because a worker-owned cooperative, it's that model of what we want to see in the world. The DAO and the tokenization allows for like massive scaling of that.
Yeah.
And a way, that to the vertical integration, you're talking about, it's even possible right in front of us in this ecosystem, right? Because, first of all, right, holistic systems is the ecosystem, but we're connected to everybody else in the Haifa ecosystem. And a co-op token is fungible with a D-Studio token, with a Haifa token. We can, we can exchange those value, those value tokens, right? So somebody, and then if we, like, there's ways to expand because different projects, right? So you have, then mass expansion can happen if you actually have like a real, like a currency system set up. So essentially like a financial, like we have our financial system, that's set up in this crappy ass way. It's not crappy. It's just it's exploitative.
Yeah.
Exploitative and extractive. So not the best. But right. So seeds, right? So seeds is creating that. Seeds is basically saying, hey, we have this thing. It's a currency. It's called a seed. We've thought about it a lot. We've baked in a bunch of values, and you can use it and transact and exchange seeds. It's fungible. You can exchange seeds just like with somebody on your phone. So if you have seeds, and then you have this thing called local scale, which is actually like a marketplace for people to exchange goods and services on seeds. So it's like, I have a farm. Okay, I want to sell my stuff. I'm going to put it up on local scale, and somebody can buy it with seeds, and I can buy other stuff. And then you have, Haifa, who is like, helping coordinate the DAOs, the organizations. And then, and Nestor is doing that. And then, like holistic systems, I think can enter into that in some way. Holistic systems is providing like services, to help run and grow all these organizations. And then you have something called Regen Civics, which is something there, like the land-based products. The land-based projects.
Okay.
So that's already happening. There's already there's 13 like land-based products that are being, developed and cultivated on the ground. So if all of those can join together, you start to get that vertical integration. And at a certain point, if everybody's using seeds, then you can essentially exchange for whatever you need. Like you can actually get your basic needs met on an ecosystem that is outside the US dollar. That's the dream, So there's
that says it right there. To exchange for
Yeah.
your basic needs in an ecosystem outside of the US dollar. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, that's what I love, because that's the promise of that, and the development of that feels like that's what gets me up every morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. There is something about that land-based, it's just sort of if you think about, like, if you go back down to like, this is a technique of design. Russell Ackoff, who's a holistic systems guy, along with like Donnell Meadows. He was like a teaching assistant with Bucky Fuller. And he talks about this idea of, and I think Grace talked about this, like you wake up and the system that you're trying to change is completely destroyed. There's nothing left of it. What was there, what the past is totally gone. There's no infrastructure. Everything got wiped out. So the the dollar system last night, like all the machines, all the banks, all everything went dead, and we can't revive it. We're there's no money, and like, how would you build it? Like, what would it entail? Like you had talked about the exploitive and extractive way. I like to think that something sort of changed over time, or they just solely figured it out, that they're like, oh, look, we can be exploitive, we can be extractive, and that it wasn't as bad as it was, but yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
it's gotten bad, and they've gotten better at being bad. Think about that. They've gotten better at being bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And much to the way that it's untenable. It's just like, well, something's got to change, because it's just no one's given an inch, and anyway, the point being that if we just go back, okay, the idea of like going back, like it's been totally dismantled, and then how would you build it up? And that's one of the things that I like about the DAO structure, is because we can make our own money. I guess that's it. It's just like we can redo it with all of the same things that money, like it used to be. It's like, well, we want to make our own money, in the 20s, socialist Marxist time, where they were like, okay, we'll make, employee dollars, or that time when, like, company script and all of that stuff, like those innovations started, and we saw how they panned out, right? And some I'm sure were pretty good, and some were pretty bad. But now we've got something that is, magic internet money, that we can control all the parameters and do all the things, and that is a fun exercise, especially folding back into like, what is the baby step into it? Like, what is the thing without getting too far out? Like, what can we do to like start acclimatizing our systems to this new way of thinking? And I think that if you free your mind, and your ass will follow, and you free your ass and your mind will follow. So it's just like, free something, either your ass or your mind, and then you're gonna get into the right spot.
Yeah. So all that. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
So all that, welcome. And I want to, right, because then I think that is all there, right? And that's, I love it all. And then, I think I'd like to bring that back into, the specifics of what, is that still on the screen? No. Okay. Of what we were sharing before, what we were talking about, which, is like getting into the, the brass tacks of the, and more like the, back into the monetary, models.
I've made so many additions to this by now, just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Well, that's
nice.
awesome. We'll have a before and after.
Yeah, great.
And so I think that, and I want to hear, Zoe, what you have to say on all this, because I think now it's like I think that's, for me, that's like what I'm going for, is that promise, the promise of, that the DAOs and the, tokens and digital currencies can create, so we're working on that. And there's other reasons why I think that there's benefits there. And like, how do we then come back to like the here and now and say, okay, well, how are we functioning now while we're still, kind of figuring this out? Like, it's an open question. Like I love DAOs, but I'm not like saying, oh, well, that's the way, it's like, until like there's all the clouds are gone and we're like, okay, we've got this and this is working, then, I think it's a good open question to be like, okay, how are we operating now? In what model, and there you go, where's the money going? And, because I just think it's right, we're holding both of those pieces. And again, like I said at the beginning, for me right now, there's a lot of like real present time kind of, energy coming in, even though the luscious parts for me are like, the DAOs and the systems, right, and all that.
And I think what you're saying is they're not mutually exclusive. like we can have that energy of like go out there and get money in that sort of aggressive, assertive, like go get it, you know, because that's the time. I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work to just to be constantly in the promise zone. We really do want to get out there and work and hustle. You know, it's nice to have, like you said, it's like the thing that gets you up in the morning is not making the money, but it is like, I want to get the money so that I can make this pump go. I want to try the experiment, and I can't do it with $100. You know, I can't really do it with $1,000. I really need about $100,000. So it's like, give me 100,000 and let me do an experiment. Let me, you know, like, I'm not going to take it to Vegas. I'm not going to, you know, buy whatever. I'm not going to buy a sports car. I would love to use it to build and see, like, just a science experiment. I'm a grown ass man. I can, you know, like, they didn't let me do science experiments in the yard as much as I wanted to. So like, I want $100,000 to do a cool science experiment that shows like how money can flow through a system in a different way than it would normally do it. I'm going to spend $100,000. That will happen, but it's just, I get to decide how it goes and how creative it goes. And it would be great if it like ping pong through a big community of people with artists and English teachers and grandmas cooking and, you know, like people farming. Like, wouldn't that be cool? Like, to see it and then in this new and different way. You know, I've often thought of that as just like, yeah, I'll probably will make some money, but I would probably just do dumb random crap. I just buy candy. I just buy candy with the money, and I get diabetes and die early. But until the four of us here make the system that money can go into, I just don't think it's going to show up.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? That's just sort of like, I was like, yeah. But I'm ready to put the time and attention on it. And there's this incredible tools and fun communities and, you know, Zoom that connects us, and Otter AI that takes notes for us, and, you know, all these tools to visualize and build together. And that's exciting to me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Zoe, I don't know, having the feeling to then, you know, bring that back to you, that conversation.
Zoe's writing, she's furiously writing down the new model.
Yeah, or you don't have to, you can just keep writing and pass.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have anything to say right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right. You're curating the notes and the energy from this.
Kind of understand.
I want to. So Jeff is here. So I think, you know, you know, that seems like a good place to then say, okay, where are we going to go next? You know, with this meeting. You know, one thing that Jeff and I met. Yeah, so Jeff, I'd love to hear from you and just have you can just check in and share, but I'm sort of gonna give you the whatever the introductions, you know, speech. Jeff and I were talking yesterday, and what Jeff, you know, brought into me, you know, how I, you know, took it in is that, you know, in some ways I know this, but like there are other promises of funding or income that I think come along with the DAO space. And I don't know, you know, again, it's like, if you read the little email I said, you know, I mean, sometimes my mind can't wrap around things until I, you know, learn it from somewhere. But I've been, you know, part of what I've been trying to do is get, you know, like investment in funding, right? Because if, you know, that would be nice. And then we could distribute all of us, you know, some funds, and then we can keep doing what we're doing, but have you know, some more space around it. You know, and I've been putting together stuff, you know, in this kind of conventional way, you know, in these business plans to say, okay, you're an investor and I get it, and you want to make money, and we think our business will work and be profitable. But what Jeff is talking about, you know, is not that, but it's talking about, you know, at least how I'm taking in the concept now is impact investors. So there are people with money who want to, who are looking to fund projects, but projects who have the goals that are in alignment with the goals that we have. And it seems like that, oh, that makes more sense, because actually it's probably going to be hard to convince conventional investors
Mhm.
to invest in a business that where the purpose of it is not to make money. This very specifically, that's not the purpose. But if there's, people who really want to, who have money and want to invest in doing things in a different way. So I think that there's some promise there as well, or some potential there, to get some runway. So I just, that's another piece. So Jeff, just hi, and feel free to check in.
Well, great. And by the way, I came in late because I didn't have the invite for this meeting. I wasn't sure. I did not receive it for some reason, so I didn't have it. And I for some reason I don't have it in my calendar. In any case, I even thought it was at 4, not at 3. And I've been going through so many meetings. My calendar is so full and overlapping and whatever. So in any case, that's why I did come here. I've been looking forward to it. But so the question, what I think that was important for us to realize is that we are more than doing whatever we're doing, is we are engaging in becoming, in having a new kind of relationship, from a new way of being intentional about what is it that we want to do when we come together. So in the world that we're coming from, you need money to make money. And in that world, you said you cannot expect how anybody's going to make money without having money to make money. And because simply nobody is going to work for free, and nobody's just going to do things for you without getting paid. But in this world, we're coming together for ourselves. So we're all willingly doing things for each other. So together we can do the things that neither of individuals can do. And we're building something. We're actually literally building something, a whole new way of working, that because we want a whole new way of working that it can work better for everyone, including ourselves, right? So what we're doing immediately is not necessarily generating money. It is generating value, a lot of value. There's a tremendous value in this transition, in this evolutionary transformation that we are creating from the old system to the new system, right? And then then this is very valuable. And people who are conscious, who have a lot of money, who are impact investors, that's what they want to do. They want to put their money into something that they know that their money is going to be the cost for something very significant to emerge. We are that something very significant that is emerging, that if we become visible to many people with money, they will be willing to invest, not necessarily because they will have to make the money, but they can recognize the tremendous value that this represents for humanity, for the world, for evolving the way we do economics, right? So that in itself is what so the return on the investment is the impact in creating something significant. So they are getting they're getting the return that is very significant, that makes them feel purposeful. So if we can become the vehicle for rich people to have meaning and purpose in their life just by putting money, hey, bring them on, right?
Bring it on.
and that's how this is how we take the essence of being humane and turn it into something very powerful, because it's transformational. Now, in order to do that, it requires us to be willing to be here, to become a demo, right? A demonstration of this new possibility that we are here. And then this is what proves to them is that, yeah, it is possible for some people to come here and begin to cooperate and collaborate for the sake of being purposeful instead of just getting money. So there is a new way of being, for a new way of relating, for a new way of realizing, a whole new way of creating a new reality. How much is that worth for you? Okay. So here we are, right? So we are it. We are the demonstration that produces the validation for them to be willing to invest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I suppose those investors are out there. Yeah, those investors are out there. I mean,
Right.
I would hope that there's some investors like that out there that are sort of like can see. And I think the big key point that I got from that was that there are some people that can see the value of things through the costs. So like the difference between a cost and value, it's like, I can't see the value in that. Why would somebody, like, why
Right.
would someone work for free? Or
Right.
I don't see the value in just creating a widget that works on speculative wealth. I'm going to this NFT conference, and it's like, I don't see the value in just creating a meme token, a meme NFT,
Right.
just because, because it became popular, or somebody said it on a thing and now people will buy it. Like that to me is unhealthy and doesn't have a real, like, it's just sort of a luck of the draw type of thing. Whereas like a new way of coming together and working in a robust way that is not exploitive, not extractive, is can handle shocks, can do all these things that our system doesn't have, like creating a new system. That does have real value, especially for folks that take responsibility for the future, or take responsibility for community, and say,
Right.
look, we need this is a real need, and they're willing to invest in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I go even further, and I'm going to point at the distinction that can make the biggest difference. So we are the demonstration that it is possible for a group of people to come together and begin to collaborate and begin to co-create without any payment, right? So here's where we come to somebody who has money. Imagine if this becomes the new way that humanity works. Wow, that's so incredible, right? I mean, we really would break through the constraints of you need money to make money, right? It's okay, well, here's your opportunity. This is the purpose that you can fulfill. Help us become more of each other. Help us grow in this, from being 4 people to being 40, right? Because once we have 40 and we still begin to start co-creating opportunities to deliver services in the whole new way, we're good to go, because we're now generating revenues from all these different ways of coming together. So all we need is the funds to take off, right? So that is the distinction. Is that we need the fiat right now. We're not going to need it in the future. And by the way, we are creating a currency in here that when you invest, you get that. So, and this fiat currency, it's going to grow. It's just going to expand probably, and you can also benefit from that. So the people with money has this dual benefit of having the impact of taking this potential into actualization and realization, and then also get the revenue. So for that, once becomes the very viable and very long and self-sustaining DAO, then the currency with that it gets to increase, and they get their money back. So it's like they get their cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is something, that we have to become conscious of. That this is what we're doing, not by what we're doing, but this is what we're doing by what we are becoming. We are becoming the new way humanity works by coming here and showing up at every meeting, and continue sharing, and continue to co-creating, and continue to co-realizing the possibility that of a world that works better for everyone, starting with us. And then having this conversation, right? is what taken from my mind to your mind to their mind. And that's how culture evolves.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and like Zoe and I've been having this, you know, the conversation about investment. And I think that, you know, like just think about investment in, you know, in different forms, right? And there's, you know, so there's this kind of investment, you know, there's like, you know, for this business to grow, or any business, is my contention, you know, it needs some investment to create something from nothing, which was the question from last week. Yeah, it needs some investment, but I think of investment as, as money from outside sources, you know, inside, and time investment, you know, investment in time, investment in, you know, learn skills and learn tools, and you know, so it takes, you know, it takes that to then get it to the, you know, place where the, you know, it's more self-sustaining. And so I love the idea of, you know, being open to, you know, any and all kinds of investment coming in, and pursuing what makes sense. And what I, you know, love about what Jeff, you know, is talking about there, and what feels much more in alignment, you know, is, you know, looking for investment money from like impact investors, from people who are the value, what they want to buy with their money is, you know, this potential value, because then that's easy. I mean, it's easy for me to, I'm not saying like I'll be successful, but it's easy to sell, right? Quote, because it's what I'm doing. It's there. There's no rifts, you know, there's no schisms. And that's, you know, when I find when I'm in that place of alignment, you know, then it's just, you know, the channel flows through.
Yeah. So in terms of investment or investment in the sense of that, yeah, it implies some kind of return. The return of money. That's what we think. We invest money to get as a return money. But in essence, it's just an exchange of value, right? It's just that the money we use in practical terms. We can say what we're doing here, we're doing it without, you know, we are looking to make money without having money to invest right now. But we are investing a lot of value. You know, we're investing a tremendous amount of creativity that we're sharing and putting together a lot of tools, materials, scripts, all kinds of communications, defining the ideas and getting into agreement and becoming a team and showing up and having, you know, knowing that we are becoming something, and we're naming it holistic system cooperative, right? So that is becoming something, and more people can come in and talk. So then, as we look at filling an application for Green Changemakers grants, so we're filling the application. It's the question: what is the problem that you solve? Right? What is the problem? I said, so, well, the problem that we solve is that any new startup needs money to become a startup, but in this DAO type of organization, that is not necessarily that way. I said, well, okay, but then, you know, it's like, let's try to think about crowdfunding, what crowdfunding is, right? Crowdfunding is you launch the idea of a product that people like and they're going to pre-buy it. That could be one way. Or you simply have people fund whatever it is, the project, whatever it is, however it is, right? So then let's think about that. We go into the idea that holistic cooperative system is going to grow into a network that is represented into 100 different cities. This is the correlizer model that I have that we talked about yesterday, Rob and I. So there is 100 teams in 100 of the largest cities that are connected with holistic system cooperative, right? That each of them will have the opportunity of bringing a potential new DAO that wants to also be global and is going to distribute their services globally, right? So then we can offer anybody that's starting a company that or has a product that wants to scale through these 100 cities, and said, well, we have precisely 100 teams that can help your company develop this 100 marketplaces, and we have it all there, a group. How valuable would that be, right? How incredibly valuable would that be? All right, so that's what we are potentially, right? So that's the possibility that we are correlating to become potentially that. Now let's think, then let's use that to say, okay, so that is possible. We are the demonstration that, for at least for us, is possible. Well, however, we would say, okay, we want to create a network of 100 teams in 100 the largest cities, and we have these roles that we play. The team is going to be composed of 5 different people per city, right? So now we have 500 different roles to be played for anybody to step in and become part of the DAO, that holistic cooperative system. HSC is and so that is what we have already. We can totally contextualize a website with all these seats, with all these roles in there for people to subscribe into and prove that they have the capacity to fill the roles that we are designated, that we're articulating. And if they spend 3 months, solidly corroborating that they have the capacity to fill that role, well, they earn the right to subscribe to that role. And as a cooperative, there is a subscription per year, right? That is how we co-found this. We all are co-founders of this infrastructure. So if we have a little money from 500 people to develop the infrastructure, the operational infrastructure that we all need to operate as a global network, delivering the business development services in this whole new way, they are ready. It is how we are, in a way, capitalizing our own potential to bring this potentiality into actuality, to self-actualizing this potentiality that we just are contextualizing, that we are just defining, that we're just framing, and that we're just, just creating this virtual roles that are for people to jump on board and take it. So this is, in essence, similar to NFTs, right? Each role, think about it, is unique.
Okay.
It's a new way to participate in becoming part of the network. So each role has equal access to the whole network for an exchange of very minimal fee, which is the investment. So we are all co-founders, and we're all contributing all kinds of value, including a little fiat.
Thank you. Yeah. And so
Oh, my favorite. I was just thinking of an NFT project. Sorry, actually, this is not it. I looked up. You made me think of my NFT project, and that's sort of like on the. They haven't been updating. They're not responding, and their website's down now. But I think, I mean, the NFT is still there. Like, I still have the thing. So, but they're not keeping up their website.
Yeah, creating NFTs is very, very, very easy.
Well, and I think what you said was really, really beautiful. And I'm going to the NFT conference in New York starting tomorrow, and for the next few days. And we were talking about earlier, like, what are the, what is like the relationship to NFTs and DAOs, and how those, like, they can be a part of this role and responsibility, and some way of they fit into the
Well, it's very simple. I think that this is better illustrated with Nestor as Rob, as you show me, at Nestor right now, you can create all these 500 roles. And so, but in other words, rather than somebody coming in and looking where they're going to be at what circle, no, you create the circles, the 100 cities, and within the circles, you create 5 roles, and you have it all in there. This is way first wave of our growth, and we're not going to expand further than this until these roles are created, right? So and each role is going to contribute so much, so that once we have all the roles filled, that becomes a tipping point, and that's when people begin to actually activate the funding, right? So we fill all the roles, and while we're filling all the roles, we're not receiving this fund. People are just claiming those roles. Once we fill them all, or half, or whatever, we can do it 10 cities, or however makes sense. This is something that is emergent to validate the proposition, right?
Yeah.
And however makes sense, then this is how we do it. And then we create waves of growth. And each wave, you can think of it, it could have a little higher, a contribution, because it's our contribution, investment contribution, if you will, in our own growth. We are investing in ourselves. We're co-founders, right? And then basically what we gain is that with a little contribution, we're creating I am having access to a global network that will enable me to go and find any kind of customer that can be served by this global network. And I get, there's a tremendous capacity for me to harness that what I am part of, to go and create. So we imagine that we are all the founders of a startup, and then we can look at that to create our own opportunities. So I have a startup of 500 people that back me up into whatever I can go and get, and each of us is the same. So we are all at the center of the DAO.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I want to, because I'm checking time here, and I know this is all what Jeff and I had, more time and space to talk about, yesterday, which we recorded the meeting, but it's great. But I want to, like checking time here, and bringing this into the context of what we've been talking about, for me, this is another way to develop the business model. This is another methodology, to bring in funding, which is beautiful. I mean, it's, there's oh yeah, right. It's, we're in, right. I mean, what Jeff said, which I like, is that we are the, no, I'll get it. We are the customers and the product is us, right? So that's Jeff's, that's not mine, but
that's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Contribute to distribute.
Right. So, well, how I want to tie it back in again, given the time, and just make sure we, we can go till, well, as far as I'm concerned, we can just keep going. But, I know, keeping it to 2 hours seems reasonable. Is to say, okay, now we've got, there's different methodologies of bringing in funding, bringing in investment, and of different methodologies of what to be doing now, to, get in the here and now to earn some fiat money. So, for me, the question is who's doing what? What are the priorities? And these are the things that I, spin around in my mind all the time. Is okay, there's a lot of stuff here, so who's doing what? What are the priorities? What's the plan? Because to put together, even if it's to put together the proposal of these different ideas, that's still a lot, and that still takes, some coordination. And so And, part of what I feel like I'm embodying, now, which is beautiful because it feels like a growth stage. And I feel like I'm embodying like the inability for me to grow much, to be the person who's, sort of growing it by themselves, to be that initial kind of founder. It's, it's feeling more and more impractical, which is great, and then it's, so really what I'm asking, and, as far as like the particulars and the details and like, oh, okay, what are the different projects? Where can we get, I have some very, sort of specific ideas and opinions about that. But that is also, a base question to the group is like, okay, who's doing what? And what, what's everybody in for? And then what are we deciding is kind of the plan and the top priorities, timelines, all that.
Yeah, Rob, I think that question which you asked yesterday, I think it leads me to think that as we decided to say, well, let's go and submit an application for this grant from Green Changemakers, right? And they're asking, the first question they're asking, what is the problem that you're solving? And then the problem that we're solving is that we are creating a new way to organize the people work according to what they're passionate about. And the way that they begin to earn a return on investing their potential, right? So in other words, it's a whole new way of people to create livelihoods that is purposeful rather than survival needs.
Right. Well, but I think what I'm bringing in is looking at things from a project, like a project management, perspective. And so from a project management perspective, that is one project. One project is, fill out the Green Changemakers application, and write the copy for that. Which is, like we talked about, like that's a great, project to work on. It seems like that's, something that, that should be, priority to get it done by the due date. And so some time and some resources has to be allocated for that. But that's one project, and it's speculative, so, then what are the other, projects that we're working on? Like, what are the other avenues that we're pursuing? So that's, that's what I'm asking, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's say there will be other things, but I'm talking also because as a priority, submitting the application is the exercise that we will go through to actually define who is it that we are going to become, which is the priority that we need to do. In other words, the filling of the application in itself helps us as a core team to define what is it that we are coming together for, what is our purpose, who is it that we're going to be and become, right? So we complete this very, very core and essential things. Now then on top, then from there is that, okay, so you are this, you're coming to do this, this is the problem you solve. And by the way, now let's go get a potential beneficiary of this that we're going to do, which becomes the project that you're talking about. That could be the way that would generate the revenue. So, right. So this application becomes who we are, and there's going to be funding so we can become this, and that produces our minimum viable proposition. And then because we now know who we are, right, and what we're going to do, then we should have clarity about whom is it that is going to be benefiting from this thing that we are going to be doing together.
Right.
Which I don't think we have right now. That clarity, we don't have it right now. Or do we have
Yeah, we have whatever clarity that we have, whatever is binding us together, that's what we have now as far as our clarity.
Mhm.
You know, what you're saying is, yeah, we like that's a priority to get that that real clear group value proposition clarity, which I think is true. I mean, I agree. You know, I think that is, I don't know that that's the priority. I know that it's a priority. You know, if it's the priority, I mean, it could be. It could, we could just say, hey, like, let's everybody get together, you know, like everybody spend whatever, an hour or two on it. And before we launch into any new projects, we just do that. But I just, you know, I
Right, so
think,
let's
yeah,
create,
where I keep,
let's now ask, what else do we have in the table that could be more significant, more important than that?
yeah,
What
yeah.
do we have?
Yeah, well, I would say there's, you know, I mean, what seems significant and important is, you know, is team member outreach and client outreach, you know, so, you know, what's there is something that's important, which is, you know, which is bringing in some money like ASAP. So that way, you know, we can, so that way we can, you know, pay our bills, which means, you know, the least speculative way is, you know, is like a client who needs services. And so, you know, we can, you know, that's one project, spending time, you know, doing, you know, in all the ways that you can, which I can, you know, I can get into, but all the ways that you can, you know, go and bring awareness and find clients who need services, who can, you know, pay in the here and now. And also along with that, I would say in order to do that, you know, is you need people who can, you know, fulfill those services, who can fill those roles. Now, you know, like in any business, you know, there's not, as far as projects, would never say there has to be like the priority. I mean, projects can be happening synchronously. Lots of projects can be happening that way. But that's what I would say.
Right. And okay, so yes, very important. What I think that you know, the way I'm looking at it is that, of course, we need to outreach for member, you know, more participants, and we need to outreach for clients who can be serviced by us. But before we do that, we have to define who we are and what is it that we offer, so we can do the pitches to so we can actually create the messages to be aware of to those, to have those value propositions as the offers that we're going to present to in our reach efforts.
Yeah, well, I would say we have a version of those already created.
Okay.
Like everybody is here already, you know, because of what has been put out and the value propositions that are here. So we have a version, you know. I think what we're saying is, you know, we need to better clarify and refine that version. You know, so, you know, so let's even, but we can, you know, we can play out, you know, if we play out the scenario that we need to, you know, create that, you know, you know, what we're talking about, the clarity of our value proposition, you know, then, you know, again, from this project management standpoint, I'd say, okay, well, how long would it take to do that? You know, can we do it by the end of this week? And if so, then sure, we can, you know, hold off on putting anything out there. You know, so that's also a question, you know, is how quickly can that get done? And how much does it make sense to actually do that, like, quickly? You know, I mean, we because you want to do it, you know, we can say, okay, we want to do it quickly, but we also want to do it well. So those are, you know, those are questions.
Right. So then what I say, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, I'm taking the is that if we do have those value propositions, and then that implies that we are ready to go and do some outreach for members and for clients, then who's going to do it by when?
Right, well, yeah, that's the secondary question, you know, and that's right. That's really what I'm asking, you know. So we've got two people here, you know, who we've already talked with about that, you know. So, you know, So there's like the kind of marketing outreach, which I know, Zoe and I have talked about that. And so, we need to get more clear on, okay, project, deliverables, milestones, timelines, all of that. But that would be a question for Zoe, and then Newman, we talking about yesterday, and I was thinking about like, oh, okay, well, what, like I'm opening up the possibility for Newman to take on like the team member outreach. Because that's a whole thing. And there's already processes in place. And Delise, hopefully we'll be able to jump back in. She's had some emergencies, personal stuff going on. But if that is an option that I was thinking about, for Newman. So that's the first question is like, how does that sound to those folks?
To me, yeah, I'm happy to I am mindful of my time and all that whatnot, but I don't think it would be difficult to sort of get in, observe what's going on, and then edify it, codify it in some way, create some small, it's like, how do you change, the river? Right now there is a process, things are happening the way they are. And how do you change the river? And, if you get in there with the steam shovel and it's very difficult, but you can change the river one pebble at a time. And it's just sort of that slow, methodical and commitment. So I'm happy to make a commitment to sort of see and build something. What the value to me is creating something cool with my friends, and that I can like as a discrete unit. So like creating like an SOP or a workflow or a document that says, oh, when new people are here, this is the first bit. It's really documentation. That's sort of what I'm envisioning. And then also manning the process and walking people through it, or doing onboarding sessions, et cetera, which really anyone should be able to do as a responsibility, as a role. It's just like, oh yeah, we've got a greeter role. Like people show up and they're new and they don't know, and it's just like, oh, here's how things work.
Right.
That is something that I do naturally. It's not very difficult, but the extra thing would be to create a process such that when I'm no longer here, or when I want to pass it on, or when it wants to go to the next town, that they can do that.
Yeah. And and what we also talked about, just to say, oh, sorry, I just put this up. This was kind of something, I have, there's Asana projects and big lists. This is just sort of something that I kind of put together in the last couple of days, talking about like some ideas for what's, what the areas of highest need are, which of course, is always a moving target. Newman, what we talked about a lot, was you functioning, also as this, client, as a project manager and client account manager.
Yep.
Which is like a huge, area of importance. However, if there aren't, clients for you to, to be doing that for projects, then it's, then I think it's a matter of.
I think I guess the reason why I gravitate towards the onboarding thing, because I'm in a unique position as somebody that's onboarding. This is my second, you and I have known each other for a few months, but this is my second meeting here. And so I'm discovering it, and it's just sort of easy because I do this naturally. I take notes, I write things down. And so I can just write down, it's just like, here's how, as I go through the process, it's just easy for me to sort of put it in. I figure that as new clients come in, or I bring in new clients, or somehow like clients show up and that they need someone to like guide them through the process and that. But right now it's a bit opaque to me because I don't know how it works. So it's hard for me to sort of accept that responsibility. However, new membership, It's just I can kind of see how I could help, and just be like, oh yeah, look, here's a checklist, here's a diagram, here's an org chart, here's some bios, here are the people that you'll meet in this neighborhood, here's what you can do, here are the roles, these are sort of the values. What Jeff was saying is, it's like defining who you are. You can sort of look and see from an outsider's perspective, which I have a bit of right now, like, okay, these are the this is the lay of the land, this is the landscape as I see it, and then it's a feedback. It's like, well, are we, like this or that? And then you can kind of get into the conversation, like once you write it down, and then say, oh, is this what we want to be? Like Jeff was saying, like, as you fill out a grant application, you kind of have to define yourself, and you can keep doing that, and you become more robust and more mature, in the sense it's like, oh no, we've seen this, and this is what we do. It's like, well, that's not actually what we want to do, or like it's just becomes like a self-discovery process.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's processes, already in place, and then to, share those. But it sounds, thank you for that. And I love, that's, I mean, just to say, we're all here, like, that's what it is taking, is like, what I'm doing, but also us, other folks like yourselves, to say, okay, well, I'm going to invest, some time, and that's amazing. That's a dream, it's a dream come true.
And the value that I get out of it is that I'll have a portfolio. I'll hopefully create some good relationship. I'll get an experience of doing this type of thing, which I think becomes it becomes personally edifying. Like, it has personal value to me. That like, I can say, oh, this is a service that I can offer, and I'm practicing it now. And if we all sort of think of that, I think it's just one of those mind shift things that Jeff was talking about. So it's like, it's not monetary value, but it is reputational. It is sort of professional or educational value. They're different kinds of value. So that's sort of what's on my mind. Looking to find and build a project with my friends that I can point to new and old friends and say, look, I did that, like, I can do that, and I'm good at that, or whatever, or I need to improve that, or whatever. But you can't steer a boat that's not in motion. So I want to get in motion, and I want to do things, and I want to help, like, bring in those clients, bring in like the life force and energy that can make the system go. And I think that if we bring people in that know what it's about, and that they quickly get into a meaningful participation that's unique and valuable quickly, so that they sort of lift the ship. It's like if you get a bunch of people that come in and they don't know, and they're kind of wandering around and blah, 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 and that can kind of sink the ship. It's like it doesn't lift off. But if you get people in and they're like, oh yeah, I know some clients, I've got some stuff. This works for me. I want to be in a co-op. I want to be in this different model. I want to be a participant. I see where the money comes in. I see where it gets distributed. This is a better model than going to work for a different type of agency. And if they can do that quickly, and there's a momentum that can happen. So that's why it's important to have good onboarding.
Yeah. Thank you. So, right. And so as far as like the, sort of that project, perspective, what we're talking about, so Jeff, does that, like what, then where does that all land, for you? Because it feels to me like we're talking about, those specifics, like those are kind of 3 or 4 projects that can be going on at the same time.
All right. And the way I see it is that either filling the application for getting the funding, getting more members, or getting customers, right? In other words, these are the three types of operational goals that I see, right? And then so and the way that I see it is that what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring about the the agreement on working on the type of model that we're describing here. So then I can go into the seeds ecosystem, and then in the proposition of scaling local scale and activating the bioregions, then there's going to be the HSC a DAO that is going to participate in expanding in the same way. So I'm already working in that project, and that is even more than this three. But also, more importantly, I think that as I share with you, if we can put together this as an ecosystem, then that's the way for all of us to get funding. Because if we're going to co-activate bioregions, and there's going to be 4 or 5 different DAOs, and we are one of them, then there could be a DAO that it's actually an impact investment fund that actually emerges as part of the seeds ecosystem. That fund, so imagine it's going to be 100 cities, right, or 100 bioregions, and then there's going to be 100 teams for each of the DAOs. So we have a network of 100 teams for 5, 6, 7, 10 different DAOs. But one of the DAOs is the network of funds that are going to bring the funds, the impact investment funds, to fund the development of each of the regions. But that is one DAO, that is a network. Why couldn't it be that each of those funds in every bioregion raises $1 million?
Yeah, well, I
for
think
the development of all of us.
Yeah, and
that's the level that I'm working on.
Yeah, and I would say, like you know, and hopefully I was clear on this. Like, I wasn't. I don't think that, you know, in my mind, I wouldn't say, "Hey, Jeff, do you want to work on, like, you know, new member onboarding or client?" Like to me, like, you have your project, you know, like you have, and that is like, I want to, you know, I think we should be working with you on that. And because you are spearheading that, like that I love, because that's just talking about money coming in, you know? And so, you know, I think what I'm saying is, how do we work on these different projects at the same time? You know, who's doing what? Because you're totally spearheading that, you know, and with the idea being that is a big, high impact payoff, you know, and
right.
The timing of when, if it pays off, the timing of when that funding comes in is, you know, is very, you know, up in the air. And so, you know, so it could be a while, who knows? And so then at the same time, you know, we're saying, okay, then how are we then, you know, bringing in enough to at least, you know, support, ideally, you know, support myself, Zoe, Newman, whoever else, while we're waiting for that to develop.
And that's why I said one of the priority things that is directly within the scope of what we're doing right here, right now, is to go and apply for that grant, which has a deadline of the 29th of April.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then what I would suggest that if we don't do that, we're not going to get that funds. By the way, that funds might take time as well, or however. But so then, if these are the 3 things that we know that we have as the 3 most important operational objectives, right? Have a way to, as a matter of fact, let's think about it. We need to have a value proposition for those who are going to become members, and a value proposition for those who are going to buy the services to be provided for those. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So but before we do that, we need to have exactly clear what is it that we're talking about. What are the services that we're going to co-create together? So then we can identify who are the ones who are going to be needing this. And I don't think we have that clear yet. We have talked about it. I think we have certain versions, but my question is, do we have that clear?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's clear enough to, I think it's clear enough to start. I think it's clear enough to start that outreach. I mean, I feel it's clear enough to start
With
the
the-
outreach and those
Right.
while we are doing, sort of what you're talking about, which is getting more clear, more
Right,
refined.
right. So
But I
I'm
think
talking
it's,
about,
I think it's at that minimum viable level already.
okay, and you're talking about the documents that you shared with me, that's what we have right now, the two value
Yeah,
propositions.
those documents I
okay.
shared, and then the, whatever's on the website. Yeah.
All right, and in a way, you are in charge of putting these two presentations, these two value propositions as they stand right now, right?
Yeah.
You have done it, okay. So now, then we need to create the pitch deck so that for the members, Newman is going to be testing it or looking for it and back and forth, and then we go and see how that works.
Yeah.
And then so then there will be some action items, some ways of doing the outreach that can start being implemented, and then we keep going back and forth into what happened there, what were we able to do there, and then what's the result, how do we need to enhance it, iterating as we emerge in becoming better and better until we have it as we have it, right? So then
Totally.
is there amongst us somebody who can go and do the pitch, the outreach for the potential customers? Have we identified a potential customer that can use the
Right.
services?
That's I mean, that is the question is, who's doing the pitch deck? And these are the questions for me, it's like I could, like, I want to do the pitch deck, but who, like, is it me that's going to do it, and is that viable, or is it somebody else? So these are the questions,
The
which
beauty,
is,
I think,
I
the
think that
beauty of this new way.
we know we need the the pitch deck, and we know we need, I think that there's a lot we know we need. So,
Right.
but who's doing it, and then with those resources, what are the timelines? So I think, right here we're saying,
I
we're
think that
saying, okay,
we're doing it together, but somebody is in charge of putting it forward. And I think that that's kind of what I refer to you as. You're kind of holding the flag. You created the website, you created the articulation of the message that attracted me, right? So now we're going to come up with the pitch deck, which totally corresponds to having you be the person who puts that together. So then what I'm suggesting is that the next meeting, let's present that. Let's see how right now we are being presented. We're presenting ourselves. Let's do that to ourselves, and let's get the feedback to see how we can optimize. Because that's when we're going to have to start. So this is a way for us to decide together who is it that we're going to become as a unit.
yeah.
Right? Okay. So then that's that's the way. Do you feel that is something that you want to do?
Well, no, see, when I talk about, like who's doing what, it doesn't have, I mean, for most of these things, it doesn't have anything to do with what I want to do. I want to do most of these things. I love this shit.
Well, no,
it's like, I look at all these projects, and sometimes it's, it's like it haunts me because it's like, I can't get to that. I can't get, so it's like I only have the time and the resources, that I have. So it's like, so here's the pitch deck. So I think that this is what, part of what we're talking about is like, okay, what are the priorities? What are like the priorities, the needs, and what are the priorities? So where is Rob? What projects is Rob working on? Is a question in the same way of what projects are Newman working on, Zoe and Jeff, and how much time do you have to invest in it?
Yeah. Speaking of time, y'all, I've got to get going. But super wonderful. It's really, really great to kind of get we've had like a big conversation, and please keep going. I will look at the video. I don't know exactly where the videos are stored once, and so I kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I can find out by having a need, and I can, if you share the recording, and I'll go and catch the last bit. And let's be in touch. Hope, I will be at this conference for the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But I will probably be back in the office full strength on Monday and be able to sort of like catch back up and see before the next meeting. And the weekly meeting's still on Tuesday and the same time.
Yeah,
Same.
weekly meeting is still on, and yeah, and so I think that let's just be in touch, and we can be in touch about right. I think about like digging into that team member outreach project, and because I think if right, starting to pass things off in that very role nested circle kind of way, where it's like, okay, this is what I've been doing. These are the ideas. And then, sort of passing that off, not meaning like I'm not like helping or I'm not a team member, but I'm not like I'm not the role team leader. That's
yeah. That's an important point. I think Jeff is bringing that up about like sort of the flag holder, and like we all need to like now kind of figure out what it is, in this new iteration, new way going forward. So yeah, I'm looking forward, and I'm stoked to be a part. I think this is going to be cool. All right.
Me too. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, see ya.
Today.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. But by the way, that enthusiasm that he shows is a symbol of the quality of how we are becoming what we are becoming. And so yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna this out as well. You guys should keep talking though.
All right.
So
well, anything
share some feedback as far as
yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, anything as you move out of today's meeting?
I wish you didn't have that issue finding the link for today's meeting, Jeff, because we talked a lot before you got here too, and I wish you got stuff too. But
okay.
it was good to hear what you're saying as well. Sounds like we're all sort of figuring out what needs to be prioritized and what roles we're all gonna fulfill, and I feel like I have my week's to-do list set, so I'm gonna keep working on like on-demand content and trying to understand the business model potentials and how that would lead to marketing the HSC on the internet or on social media. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. There are a lot of small things. They're not as like big as some of the projects you wanted to do, but hopefully these small little ways I'm helping will help someone.
Everything is important.
Yay.
Yeah, I would also contend that setting up marketing systems, setting up at very first foundationally marketing systems for a business and a company, and especially with the ambitions that we have, is a big deal.
Yay, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Like Newman,
that's a whole
the
thing.
Clouds and the walls. I run into walls and I run into clouds, and it's hard to understand the tokenomics. So maybe someday we could like talk to someone who knows their tokenomics.
Well, I think you and I have that on the docket. So Zoe, let's meet later this week, and go over, what you're putting together, and then what you need from me as far as content. And then, maybe when we're together, we can schedule a couple meetings with these expert folks.
That sounds exciting. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
I'll see you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You let me know what's best.
Yeah. Let's be in touch. Thank you, Zoe. Oh, and if you have the after version, you gave us the before version of those models. If you have the after version, do you think you'd like to send that? And I can.
But I feel like it might not be so beautiful yet.
Well, as you like.
Okay.
I can always pop it in the meeting notes.
Okay. It has a few questions on the bottom. Those are my personal questions.
Okay. Cool. Jeff, do you want to stay on for a few more minutes?
Sure.
Yeah, because I think,
let's catch up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and get that. Yeah, let's catch up and get the, like, right, get the, maybe, get clear on the timelines, for putting together that value prop.
Okay, have a good day, you guys.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
Zoe.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah, so I think we're, I think, I think we're, it's not dissimilar to what we were talking about, yesterday. As far as like filling out that, right, filling out that application, both, I think that the plan we made yesterday still is valid, which is both of us, working on that. But like one question that comes into me, is, like, should we bring in, these other folks, and sort of like, like make that a step, is to say, okay, like Jeff and I've been working on this and this is what we've written. Can everyone else, like who's
okay. So
involved enough.
Right. So I think about, would you want to put that graphic again?
Oh,
The
sure.
map, the map.
I would love to.
All right. What is this? So I can see what it is, but describe it to me.
To me, this is like a, this is like the map of the business from like a projects point of view, so this is like a project, map, but it's also like within the framework of like the business development.
Okay, but
so
would this be kind of like the operational structure for the DAO?
This is an operational structure for the DAO, but from a like an action oriented viewpoint, because there's different frameworks. Yeah, so this one, because I laid out all these channels here. I'll say, I'll share this with you. Where is all right, I'll just do the whole desktop. Because I laid out, right, this is like a dashboard, so these are all kind of like the projects that we're talking about, in the big sense of like, okay, this is outreach and develop the business model and all of that stuff. We could say develop like the value proposition, refine and get clarity on that. That's it could be considered a project. So you can also put those in like a timeline version. But for me, there was something that wasn't quite working until until I put things into this version, because here, I'll just do this, because for me, this reflects the idea that these multiple areas, projects and development are happening at the same time, right? So it's not like we're just working on funding and then we stop that and then we work here. Like all of these things are happening synchronously. I got to work on that word, synchronous. That's, there are things that are happening at the same time in all of these areas, so all of these areas are developing. And then when I was able to look at it like that, I was able to say, oh, okay, now what are the priorities within each area? And then what are the priorities within the entire DAO?
So we could say that this corresponds to what the circles of the DAO could be, yeah?
This corresponds fairly well to the circles. Not perfectly, but in some ways.
So funding is a circle, development marketing channels is a circle, development sales channels is a circle, client partners is a circle. The blue, the ones in light blue or in whatever blue, those are circles, right? And
no, not necessarily.
No?
I don't know that I set up the circles. The circles are set up kind of differently. This is more like, even though some of them are the same, this is more like from the business development kind of project standpoint, and the circles are more from like the team member organizational standpoint.
Okay.
So
So then let's back up. This is the map of every function of every operation of the whole what the DAO aims to be, right? In everything that you can think of that we might need, you have put it together here. Yeah.
That's a good question. Everything
As far
without
as you can
names.
see, everything is there,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, as far as the development of it, I don't know that this map contains the like the idea of it or this map, I don't know, can necessarily is the structure of it, you know. It's just it's another framework, and so like as we know, Nestor is a framework. And this is a framework for seeing like the organizational structure. So this is where, again, it's not like immutable, but this is how it's set up right now, is that this is where all the people live,
yeah,
these
I
are all the
understand.
roles. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand, but the mind map is
Yeah.
that's something that every one of those items you thought about, and this is connected to this is connected to this. We're
Yeah.
gonna need this, we're gonna need that, and as you're envisioning the whole thing already built up, then this is what we're gonna need now. So in other words, this is where we want to grow to become, right? As far as you can see.
In some ways, I can't say that. If you were to say, Rob, make me a mind map or some framework, for where we want to become. Yeah, I don't know that this would be it.
Okay, what was the criteria that you kept in mind that led you to produce this? Why did you produce this? So
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the purpose was for me to try and wrap my head around everything that everything that wants to happen. This is more like the chart, like how to get to where we want to go. I think that's a good way to describe it. Okay, it's like how we want to get to this certain place. So how right now in the plan, what is the plan for how to get where we want to go?
Right. So you are imagining a place where we want to go, and as you imagine a place that we're going to go, and so, well, if we want to get there, we're going to need this, we're going to need this, we're going to need this, so in that way, and that's exactly what I mean. This is what we're going to need in order to be able to get where you envision that we're going to get. So that's so what I was implying is what you have response. So let's agree that that this is what you envisioning where we're going to go led you to articulate everything that came up as necessary for us to be able to get from here to there in general, right? Now, but there isn't necessarily like a step-by-step process. It's all that, everything. So now what I think that we ought to do is okay. Okay, now let me ask another question. When you were imagining where we need to go, what did you imagine we were doing as an organization, as a DAO? What were we doing?
I would say developing the organization that we want to become.
Right, and as an organization, what is it that we are providing? What is it that we are creating? Why are we being created for? To deliver what?
Well, to deliver, I mean, there's a couple different things that we're wanting to deliver. I mean, in the, one thing we're delivering is like, on-demand teams, services. We're delivering on-demand teams, integrated, customized teams of professional services providers for helpers, healers, visionaries, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. That's one thing.
that becomes for you the core proposition that gave birth to it, and this is why this is at the core, this is at the center, right?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that is the core, right? To client partners, to somebody, you know, in that realm, in that model for what we're delivering. Yeah, that is the core value proposition.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, and there's other, you know, there's, you know, as we know, there's other things that we're delivering, you know, which is, you know, on those different value levels, you know, there's the bigger picture of what we're delivering, which is this different model of doing business. But in the real sort of, yeah, brass tacks, that's it.
right. So kind of like reframing what you said, we are developing on-demand teams to provide services, and this is something of a business that it already works in the extractive economy. You know, there are many companies, particularly in Latin America, that they offer it to become your on-demand IT department, right? Your
Mhm.
on-demand. So what? And then you pretty much, they have a staff, and then you pick up a team to do a project, and then you pick another team, and this is how basically that company provides clients with on-demand teams to deliver all kinds of information processing service, you know, IT services, right? So then, okay, but now what happens is that we're doing kind of the same way, but we're evolving it. We're evolving it from the extractive economy to the regenerative economy. So, and we're extracting it from the model that provides jobs for people to satisfy their life survival to roles for people to fulfill their life purposes, right? Right.
Yeah.
So these are the distinctions that make what we are creating something that is much better than this way. So in other words, it's doing the same thing, but in a whole new way, right? In a whole new way that is much more satisfying and fulfilling for the people engaged. It's more beneficial because there's no ownership and it's distributed. It's more beneficial because it's volitional, autonomous. You participate, you come in and you go out. And the on-demand teams is not necessarily somebody from the top that designates that, but kind of the system says, well, there is this services. Who are the ones who could play the different roles that form this team that is necessary? So people step up. So it's autonomous, right? So it is something that is going to go into a marketplace and provide this kinds of services, but in a whole new way, in a purposeful livelihood versus life survival. You know, based on purposeful livelihood roles than life surviving jobs, right? That's these
Right.
two models, these two types of economy. So so then the what are the, if we're going to think about a minimum viable proposition, what are the minimum viable services that we can provide right now, or that we can prepare to provide, or that we can, let's say if we were to focus on a specific type of a core, right? A core type of service that we're going to provide. And we have been thinking about business development services, right? Digital business development services. So
Yeah.
is that it, right? So if we're saying, is that it? Okay. What other alternatives to that do we see?
I think
Do you see?
yeah, I think we're digital. And just to say, like, I've got to jump in a little bit because I've got to take like a half-hour break, and then I have another meeting at 6.
Sure.
And so, but I think, I mean, we just kind of jumped into it, but I think is what we doing here is actually talking about the business model, the sort of workshopping what is the value prop. And yeah, right, that is kind of
right
what we jumped into.
Right, because then if we have it, right, like you have already in the documents. So then, if we do have a value proposition to get clients, then in that value proposition, it should be clear who are the target clients.
Right.
So
Yeah,
then let's make a list of those potential clients. Let's identify 10 and let's talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
then we determine, we validate the value proposition. So that's where we are now. We validate the value proposition by looking at 10 potential clients and interview them to test if what we have to offer is a better way to satisfy or to learn.
yeah, absolutely. That's that's what I feel like is a place where if I can, get enough, time and space, that's what I want to be doing as far as the first steps on client outreach, which is going through right here. This is the easiest place to start, is people I already know, my personal network. And in that sense that you're talking about is talking to people,
Yeah.
right? Like not me going and saying, hey, I got a product to sell you, but saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this thing. What do you think? What are your needs? What is,
Right.
all that good stuff.
Right.
Which can be developed, and we can talk about what so I think that there's further development that's in these value propositions. So I agree, but I think that there's, like I'm saying, there's a minimum viable value prop now, at least to start, and
Then we gotta put it together and test it, validate it.
I hear, but yeah, exactly. And so then, okay, so right, I know. Excuse
So
me.
if this is something that it's ready, then you can put it together in a document, send it to all of us, and then have all of us come up with a potential client for this, so that we can talk and have a conversation, friends or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. And again, within all this, I've got to, there has to be enough time for me to, I can only do, like so much. So, so which means that then, things can only move as fast as they can move until, other people are, able to take on more, more jobs, and, because there's still things that I'm doing, right, for clients themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's fine. Like, I hope I'm not trying to complain about any of it. It's just more like, it's just more sort of saying like, okay, we're in this process of growing and expanding. And, so what are the things that I still need to do, as that flag holder, and what are the things that, others can do, and so I think that and also that helps me, to be very clear. So like, we'll break apart today and we'll say, what are, like, within this projects that we're talking about, like, what are my tasks that I'm leaving with, and what are your tasks that you're leaving with, and then what are our due dates.
I think for next week, it's a matter of reading. I mean, okay. Right now, I am not sure what is the value proposition. So I'm going to have to read that, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what is the value proposition. And if I don't see it, then come up with questions. And if not, then I can tell you, okay, yeah, I see it. Maybe this is the way that we can enhance it. And then if I do have any potential people that we can talk to about making this proposition, then that also is also the way. And I will say that this is what we all of us can be doing to enhance that.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have the same, I think that we're leaving here today with basically the same, timeline and kind of first tasks that we talked about yesterday, which was this week. Each of us are going to go through that, go through the application and fill it out.
Yeah, the difference though,
and also to acknowledge, right, that there's we do have three different value propositions. You know, we have value proposition to you know, professional services, you know, the team members, potential team members. We have the value proposition to clients, you know, who are buy services, and then we have the third value proposition to investors. Because to me, they're all, you know, they are different.
Sure. So yeah, and underlying all that is to make sure that we have the core value proposition from where all these pitches are going to be, that we have it clear.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, this is who we are. This is where we come. It's sort of like having the vision for what we want to, how we're going to make the world a better place, but then also having a tagline to this is what we do. So in other words, we want to accomplish this vision to make the world a better place by doing this. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then that those are the core this, let's say, you know, informational or cultural structures that from which we build the whole everything else.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, like, I think it'll be a good exercise for me to, you know, I mean, I'm constantly sort of, you know, working on the, you know, have been constantly working on these value propositions and shifting and, you know, like refining them. So I think that there's, you know, I'm certainly not saying they're done, you know, so, but I think that if I go through that application, that's going to be a good exercise for me. And I think if you're going through, you know, if you're doing that same thing and you're also looking at the other kind of two, you know, value propositions and the main one, you know, and putting that in some of your words and writing that, I think it's going to be amazingly valuable, you know, because, and I think that's where some of this, you know, real kind of collaboration and integration is going to
converging, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And then when we have, you know, then so I think that's a good exercise because
that's what co-realizing means.
Yeah, because I know we're on the same page, right? We've said that, you know, that's so now it's just like, okay, how do we refine it, get clarity on it? I love it. I mean, I think that's a great project.
Yes, agree. Awesome, man.
All right, well, I'm going to take a quick brain break.
All right.
And, thank you. So, all right, well, let's just say, you know, let's just sort of give it, you know, like, you know, this week and we can be in touch and, you know, and then
we should have a great meeting next week.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. I'm going to stop the recording, but once